Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Chris with Inside the U. Just wrapped up watching day 5 of the Hurricanes preseason practices. They were back today after a day off yesterday, and today is the first of 5 straight days they will have practices, including some practices at night. So definitely stay tuned. We'll provide as much content and information as possible on that. Today, shoulder pads and shorts, not full pads. And also the viewing period. Able to get 4 periods instead of 7 like we've gotten. A little disappointing, but it is what it is. This happens all the time. And with those lesser periods, not able to see offensive players go against defensive players. So just drills today. And I was able to get some video, so I'll post that. But I was able to get some notes, some things that I was watching today with the drills. First off, talking about the linebackers, because I spent a lot of time on the linebackers today. And one of the things that's kind of fun to watch with these drills is Mohamed Toure. And during the periods, they go from station to station, work out a certain drill for a little bit, a certain station, then move on to the next. So one of the ones when they go to the tackling drill onto the large crash pads, Mohamed, in coming to that station, always sprints and wants to be the first rep, lead his guys, and then dives after the big pad that's being held onto the large crash pad. It's fun to watch, and and just watch him go through the rest of the reps. Mohamed is a guy that takes a lot of pride in his intensity in each drill. And I think that's good, for an upperclassman, and it's always good, but not just for his development, but I'm thinking about all the other linebackers that are trying to vie for, large roles on this team. And I think them watching him, the way he goes about his drill work, his intensity, and these kinds of things, I think is good. I thought the linebackers, and I kind of watched them in the other drills as well, whether it was drills about, kind of pass rushing skills there, or working on some drops, some pass coverage drills as well. And they've got to have some other guys step up. You're talking about, who's going to step into that number 2 spot. And Chase Smith is going to be that guy, I would assume. But we'll see after that, and they need other guys as well. If you've been paying attention to this team and how they're kind of running the defense, they always have other linebackers getting reps in games. So also, again, I've touched on this. If Chase isn't able to hold on to that full-time role, who can step up? But I think, again, I just watched him today. Again, Cam Pruitt looks good. He goes through drills really well. And then just watching those other guys, Helen Wiley with his good size coming into year 2, not a lot of playing time last year. Had a chance to watch the new freshman, Carson Bush as well. And we'll see how he kind of adjusts. But I thought in drills he looks good. So we'll see if he can kind of earn that role on special teams. That's always good for young players, especially linebackers. Linebackers are key on special teams units, not just a particular unit. It's essentially all 4 units. Linebackers are good to have because of their size and their athleticism, and they can do different things. So for linebackers, particularly these guys, I think it's good that they can perform well, earn a role there, and then elevate to base defense stuff. Speaking of base defense, defensive end Damon Wilson spoke after practice. He's a player. If you haven't seen his media day interview, definitely check that out. 20 to 30 minutes long, today about 5, but he's a very animated player, very animated personality. You'll get a chance to see it when you watch an interview, and then I assume we're going to see it on the field as well. And one of the things that stood out to me that he talked about, and he has talked about, and has essentially addressed that being an all-around defensive end. The pass rushing ability is there. He's gaining more and more stuff from Jason Taylor. I have more on Coach Taylor later, but he wants to be an all-around guy and understands, defending the run is important. I've touched on that quite a bit already. And he said just paying attention to those details is important, but just kind of continue to work at it, but understands that he has to be an all-around guy, and that's going to be big for him. And then just a little bit more about Damon. If you remember, I went to the Senior Bowl in Alabama, and I spoke to 2 of his defensive line teammates who were there, Zion Young, Chris McClellan, and they had positive things to say about Damon, of course. But I wanted to get Damon's thought on how those 2 players who are now in the NFL, how they've kind of helped him. And one thing he said about Zion, he said that's his guy. And I think about Zion, he's got a very animated personality as well. And he said the one thing that Zion has really helped him with in terms of just be yourself and be true to yourself, essentially your personality, and those kinds of things. He really learned that from Zion, but he said they were close. So that was interesting to hear. I always like being able to kind of catch up with the guys a little bit after their interviews. And another guy I spoke to after practice was Cooper Arcade. And, one of the things that I'm interested in is in terms of him making that adjustment to the Miami offense and what was different with Duke, or what's the biggest difference. And one of the things he said it was essentially the same offense. Duke to Miami, he said really kind of nowadays, even Harvard to Duke, essentially the same. But one of the things that he said was different about the Miami offense is the wide receivers will just stay on one side of the field. Whereas, at Duke, he said they would rotate around quite a bit. They would move around quite a bit. So that was something that I thought was noteworthy. And another thing, kind of just a little extra nugget with Elijah Lofton. He said he's kind of hovering around 238 pounds, really understands what's going to be expected of him this year, understands the depth behind him and how he has to have a good season. But he mentioned in his interview about learning the playbook. And I'm always, just wants to be better with the playbook stuff. And I'm always interested in kind of getting follow-ups with that with players, because it can mean a lot of different things. And for him, it's not necessarily, or it's not memorizing the plays or things like that. And this is common. He said, when I asked him about it, he said, it's making sure he understands where everyone on the rest of the offense is going to be or what their responsibilities are. Same way with defense. Wants to know more about each play that they run and kind of what to expect from defenses. So I thought that was interesting. So when you hear him say, want to learn more about the play, study the playbook, it's not just memorizing plays. And I think it's easy to, when you hear that phrase, that's what it means. But he was actually meaning that he kind of just wants to know more on both sides of the ball with the playbook there. So in addition to those drills featuring the linebackers, I'll have some other drills as well. I definitely recommend checking them out. I'm not expecting many more opportunities to get video from practices, so definitely check those out. Again, I'll try to get as much as I can when I'm allowed to be out here, allowed to get video. But kind of just wrapping this up, I said it would be short, but one of the things I've kind of noticed after practice, being here the last few days or the last 5 days, whatever it might be, is watching the players kind of do some extra work after practice. And the other day, multiple days, I've seen Ryan Rodriguez working on some snapping with Darian Mensah and right under center. And I thought that was a little interesting because, you're expecting Darian to be in shotgun quite a bit in this offense. But they were under center working on some snaps, and Ryan just said, when I asked him about it, just getting extra reps. They're working on that. So other things as well. Other guys are throwing the ball around, the wide receivers, and some of it's a little casual, just throwing the ball around. The cornerback have a little circle that the backs get together, throw the ball around a little bit. Or, today, freshman safety Camden Portis, saw him do a one-on-one rep, and he did it with his hands behind his back. So just kind of clearly working on his footwork and trying to, just making sure he's good there. Or, I saw, I'm always fascinated to see this because the last few years with Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor, seeing the little extra work with Jason Taylor, on the sled, and I saw Third Scroggins over there with Coach Taylor today. So it's good seeing there's other guys kind of doing different things as well, but just kind of pointing these guys out as examples in particular. But definitely stay tuned to the channel. Thanks for watching. Really appreciate everybody for showing your support. Also too, I want to mention this. Thank you to everybody who has subscribed to a VIP membership to InsideTheU.com. We're one of the top 2 sites in the 24/7 Sports Network with the most signups in August. That is great news, great year. It shows how much interest you guys have in this team and then showing your support and us as a staff providing as much content as possible. So I want to thank everybody for that. But have a good rest of the day and take care.